Bulls Nation, welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly. And in this episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly, we indeed have a lot to discuss. But in the end, there are not going to be too many of these episodes coming left for you guys and for the Chicago Bulls. We do not have long at all to go for our season. And in the end, there's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. But as we're coming towards the end of the Chicago Bulls Weekly series for this season, we still do have some games to talk about. So without further ado, let's go into this episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly in this video. Let's do it. What's up, everybody? It's the Aidan Sports Show, and welcome back to another video. Today, we've got another Chicago Bulls Weekly episode where we look at the previous games that the Chicago Bulls have faced, the positives, the negatives, and of course, the impact of our results. And we look forward to the future games for the Chicago Bulls. What do we have for the upcoming week, and overall the importance of the upcoming week for the Chicago Bulls. And we're going to be giving some awards out as usual for every single, six-man player of the week and must improve of the week. So we've got some very interesting topics to talk about in this episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Aidan Sports Show YouTube channel. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls weekly, or in the end, the Chicago Bulls. There's a lot of discussions that could be going into this week and of course the previous weeks as well, as we are starting to really learn about how the Bulls season is slowly beginning to end and whether or not we'll have enough to make the play-in tournament, and more questions beginning to be asked about the Chicago Bulls season. Are we trying to tank? Are we trying to go for a top 4 position so we can keep our pick? And all of these things. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Chicago Bulls has in store going forward towards the end of the season. But before we get into any of that, let's go into the previous results the Chicago Bulls had this week. So our first result was a big win against the Miami Heat. At that time, we just lost to the Miami Heat the game before. We versed them again. We picked up a pretty important victory. Again, the Miami Heat were on a 4-game win streak. And that at that time, that win, hopefully with other results coming further, which could have been very important, hopefully that win would have been enough to try and get us into that play-in tournament, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't the case. We beat the Miami Heat 110-102. It was the Bam and Jimmy show, but in the end, that just wasn't enough, and not really anybody else outside of Trevor Ariza helped the Miami Heat to overcome the Chicago Bulls' balanced scoring, and it was a complete opposite of the game that we saw against them last time when they beat us to the next time when we beat them. Just completely opposite game. Then we faced the New York Knicks, one of the better defensive teams, if not probably one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. And they showed their worth in that game as well, as they beat the Chicago Bulls 113-94. Again, the New York Knicks I've talked about for quite some time now. And in the end, I'm really concerned about how they're going to play in the playoffs. Especially if they're going to just be running the show just around Julius Randle. They don't have anybody else that can really help with that. But in the end, in a one-game scenario, in this game, the New York Knicks played very, very well defensively, and they took us down within the fourth quarter, which was, again, a very big performance from them, and they're going to be seeking their playoff success. So I guess good luck to the New York Knicks. Then we've got the next game, which was against the Milwaukee Bucks, and this was, again, the Knicks and the Bucks game, and definitely even the Hawks game after. These were the games that I truly think ended our season, and the Milwaukee Bucks, very similar in the situation. They beat the Chicago Bulls 108-98. Very frustrating loss that one was, especially with no Giannis Antetokounmpo, but the Bulls couldn't capitalize, and the Milwaukee Bucks showed their caliber of play against the Chicago Bulls. And again, the Milwaukee Bucks is a team that seems to, show a lot of our weaknesses, and they seem to capitalize a lot on the weaknesses that we have, which is something that also could be said about the last team that we just versed, the Atlanta Hawks, where we lost once again to the Atlanta Hawks 108-97. Very similar games, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Atlanta Hawks. But with this game, we had no Nikola Vucevic, and 2 of our best players were out. But in the end, a really bad third quarter, and a not acceptable third quarter, let's say, is what took us past and what ended up throwing the game for the Chicago Bulls. And that was definitely the key difference there. So in the end this week, we've went 1 win and 3 losses, which is very frustrating. But in the end, this is the type of week that has ended our season. In my eyes, I don't see us having enough to make the play-in tournament. I don't see us having enough to become a 10th seed in the East. And by the way that it's looking like, we could very well finish 12th at this point. I believe the Raptors beat the Lakers today with LeBron James and with Anthony Davis. The Lakers have not been good recently, but with those two players back, you would have expected them to beat the Raptors. So in the end, that game has helped the Toronto Raptors fight for their position, and we've fallen further behind from the pack. So once again, as I say this, I do not think the Chicago Bulls will make the play-in tournament. Is it still possible? Again, mathematically, it is still possible for us to make the play-in tournament, but I don't think we have enough. And this week is going to be a very important week as well. Once again, for those people that still believe that we have that opportunity or believe that we have the chance, and there are still some people out there that still believe that we have the chance, this week will be important for the Chicago Bulls. But in the end, something I want to talk about, and I mentioned it in the last video, and I'm going to mention it in this video again. Are the Chicago Bulls starting to tank now? Do they see this opportunity being a lost cause, and now they're starting to tank to try and get as low as possible for a higher chance at top 4? Because if you get the top 4 pick in the draft, we keep that pick from the Orlando Magic, basically making this trade an extremely positive trade if we can end up getting that over the line. It depends on what the Chicago Bulls' vision is here. Because if they are going to tank and they are going to lose games, I guess they're not going to say openly that they will lose games, but they're going to do things like rest Vucevic for 1 game here and there. Maybe rest Kobe White 1 game here and there. When Zach LaVine comes back, they're going to try and delay it as much as possible. Things like this that will potentially make it very difficult for the Bulls to win games, even though their players might not have the intent to I guess, wouldn't have the intent to tank, but would ultimately have to tank just because they don't have enough there. I guess that's something I'm trying to bring to you guys. And again, I'm not saying this is the case. I actually don't believe we are tanking. I just don't think we're good, to be honest, at this point in time. And that's just the only situation that it is. I just don't think we're a good enough team to beat good teams. And in the end, all of our teams remaining, besides a few, are extremely good teams. We just don't have enough. Even within Zach LaVine and Vucevic or without them, we just don't have enough in the end. So that's what I believe at this point in time. And maybe that could be proven wrong or right over the coming days, coming week, 2 weeks for the Chicago Bulls towards the end of the season. But ultimately, this is the thing that I believe is happening with the Chicago Bulls. I ultimately believe that we could potentially try and lose games deliberately. I don't think that's the case. It's just an option that I want to bring to you guys. I believe that there is a possibility that this is happening, but I personally don't think it is happening, but there is a possibility out there. Many people are starting to lean towards that scenario as well. Let's go into the awards. It's just something I wanted to bring to your mind, and I want to see what you guys think. Thank you for the comments in the last video discussing it. And again, a lot of mixed opinions, and we shall wait and see what happens going forward. If we're beginning to rest some of our players now towards the end of the season, and it's going to make it harder for us to win, then I guess we'll have our answer. But if they play all their best players and they're still going to try and make that push, then I guess we also know that we would know our answer. So it's all going to come with time, but it is something that's lingering in my head at the moment. I just wanted to bring that out there. If anyone wants to comment in the comments below, feel free. The awards for this week, as usual, the must improve, the player of the week, sixth man of the week. We're going to give these awards to individual players that had their solid week for the Chicago Bulls, and a disappointing week in the end as well for the Chicago Bulls. First things first, for the must improve, I think this is very difficult, extremely difficult, and many ways seen as impossible for me to pick. So there could be a scenario here where I don't pick a must improve, or where I shouldn't pick a must improve. Because the reality is, our bench is all out of sorts. There have been players been giving a ton of minutes off of that bench, and there's been rotations in the bench. You've seen Denzel Valentine play 1 game, not play the next. Archie Diacono playing some games, not playing the next. We've even seen Al-Farouq Aminu get some minutes here and there for the Chicago Bulls. So the reality is, for the must improve, if you're going to target someone, it would have to be from the starters, because the reality is some players have missed games off of that bench that have been playing poorly. If you're going to target a starter, I don't know who you'd pick, because Kobe White's had a good game here and there. Vucevic has been good here and there. Daniel Tice has been good here and there. Patrick Williams had a solid game against Atlanta. I really don't think I'm going to give a must improve, because I just think, especially this week, there hasn't been a level of consistency in who's playing, who's getting certain minutes, and of course everybody's had up and down games this week, which has resulted in our losses. Why we've lost so much, it's because everybody's having up and down games. There's not been consistent games where every single player is playing well. Again, besides the Miami game, of course, where we won, that seemed to be very balanced. Outside of that, not many people are really having great games. So I guess that's a negative towards the other two awards, but for the must improve, I don't really know who to give it to. If you really, really need a must improve, feel free to let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the must improve. I don't really want to give one, because I just feel like, once again, the level of performances for this team has been very inconsistent, and it's very hard to judge it off of that. The sixth man of the week, that's another tough one. For me, it's between Larry Markkinen and Thaddeus Young. And Thaddeus Young did start one game, but I believe Larry Markkinen missed a game. So I'm going to give it to Thaddeus Young. I just think the level of consistency in his play has been solid. In the end, you can't really count the Atlanta Hawks game, because he started that, I believe. And if he didn't, that's all the more power for the Chicago Bulls to give him that award. But yeah, look, in the end, Thaddeus Young has played very, very well. And it's not the Thaddeus Young of the beginning of the season in many ways. Again, he was getting near triple doubles every night for a lot of time. And in the end, consistency and form really plays a factor. Confidence really plays a factor. So in the end, I can't just say that Thaddeus Young is bad or played terrible, but he played all right as well. So again, it's just it goes around with the majority of the team. A lot of the team has been inconsistent. Thaddeus Young is one of the only people in my eyes that has been relatively consistent. But to say that he's been consistent all year, there's a few instances where I could say that's not the case, and he has had drop-off games. But in the end, he's had an okay week for the Chicago Bulls. And the player of the week, I'm going to actually give it to Daniel Tice. This is very controversial, but I really think Daniel Tice has had a very good week for the Chicago Bulls. He's had two very good performances. Nikola Vucevic missed a game against the Atlanta Hawks, and one of the other games he was not playing terrific. So in the end, my eyes were set on Daniel Tice from the beginning of the week. I truly think he played that good basketball. He had one of his career games against the Miami Heat, one of the best he's played in his NBA season, his NBA career. And he also had a very solid night, I believe, against the who was it against? I think it was against the Milwaukee Bucks. He had a very solid night as well. So in the end, like, these are just many circumstances where it could have been given to anybody else if really anybody else played very, very well. But once again, I don't think anybody was consistent enough, including Daniel Tice for that matter. But there's just no consistency in our play, so it becomes very difficult to give out these awards. And again, I guess that's the positive and the negative of giving out these awards. Giving out these awards to players, it kind of gives recognition to those guys that have been playing well through the course of the week. But in the end, when it's too difficult to give these awards, you're basically basing it off one or two good games, and it doesn't reflect their entire week. It just reflects that one good game that he had. So that's very tough, and unfortunately, that's the negative of giving away these awards. And many people might not believe in giving away these awards every week. It should be a monthly thing, so we could get a proper analysis. And I understand that, but again, I'm going to give it to Daniel Tice for this week, and we shall move on to the next week. A very important week, a week that I believe the Chicago Bulls has everything to play for if they're going to revive their season. But once again, I'm seeing this as a lost cause. I'm seeing this as the Bulls are not going to make the play-in tournament. I understand that people see that as negative, but I'm only here to tell the truth. I'm not going to lie or try and bring false hope to individuals. If you have that hope and you have that will and you have that, I guess, faith in this team to make the play-in tournament, then I truly believe, and I trust me when I say this, hold on to that faith and make sure you never let it go, because in the end, all we can rely on for the Chicago Bulls right now is faith. And if you have that faith, I hope it stays, and I hope you're proven right in the end. But I'm going to be a realist. I don't believe the Bulls will make the play-in tournament. I'm not here to lie to you guys. I'm not here to give you false hope. I just don't believe the Bulls will make the play-in tournament, and this week could be seen as very important towards that, but it could also be seen as just another week towards the end of the season, and we end our season not in the play-in tournament. So the first game that we have coming up is against the Philadelphia 76ers. Last time we versus the Philadelphia 76ers, they didn't have Joel Embiid, they didn't have Ben Simmons, and they absolutely flogged us. But again, this is a different team compared to then. We're going to have a proper big man. Dwight Howard, I don't think is going to drop the amount of points and rebounds that he had in our last game against them. I don't think that their third string players will have a massive impact towards this game as they did last time. But in the end, their team is significantly better with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, both of which I believe will play against the Chicago Bulls. So it's going to be a tough game for us, and once again, we need to stay close and competitive, and we need to just fight with everything that we have. I want to see the Bulls fight all the way to the end, and if we don't make it, we don't win the game, we don't win the game. But the last thing I want to see is the Bulls drop their head after one bad quarter. I want to see consistency out of this team, because I just want to have glimmers of hope. Even towards next season, we can be a consistent team in the NBA. The next game is against the Charlotte Hornets. Now, this game especially is a very interesting game because I have been watching the Charlotte Hornets and they're a completely different team with LaMelo Ball in it. I'm just going to be brutally honest. The team that we faced last time without LaMelo Ball, without Gordon Hayward, was a completely different team. They play so much better in my eyes with LaMelo Ball, and he's going to be back for the Charlotte Hornets. Now, he might not play this game, he might play this game. He has played games recently, so I expect him to once again play in this game against the Bulls. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things shape up when LaMelo Ball plays for the Charlotte Hornets and how the Bulls will respond. In the end, I hope that their coaching decisions remains the same, because if they're going to switch every single possession, that will play to our advantage with our post players. But again, we shall wait and see. Then the next game is against the Boston Celtics. Now, we did pick up one of our better wins, if not our best win of the season, against the Boston Celtics with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I don't know the scenario in terms of injuries. They seem to have a lot of players out a lot of the time. I don't think they've had a consistent starting five for a long time, because there's always injuries in their lineup. So I don't know what's going to be the case running into the Boston Celtics for the third time this year. But again, we have done it before. To say we can't do it again is naive. Well, of course, we have a chance to beat the Boston Celtics once again. But again, they're a good team. And there's a reason why they're in the playoffs right now. It's because they're a good team. So again, we shall wait and see how that one goes. In the end, that can go either way. But I think, of course, if you're looking at the front of it, Boston would have the advantage in that game. Then the last game is against the Detroit Pistons. This is definitely a trap game. These games should not be taken lightly. We've versed the Detroit Pistons twice this year. We have beaten them twice. But one of those games we were down by 25. And again, the Detroit Pistons bring out the fight out of the Chicago Bulls. They don't make it easy for us. And I don't know the situation once again. I haven't kept up with Detroit basketball. I don't know what's been happening with their team, who's in, who's out. All I know is that when we versed them the last two times that we played, it's been very difficult for this team, but we have managed to come out on top, and that is definitely a game. Once again, if we ever had an opportunity to make the play-in tournament, you look at this Detroit Pistons team and you think the Bulls need to win this game. That is the game that we must win, because that is the easiest level of competition that we have. And hopefully this trap game does not end up falling back on us and we suffer a loss against them. That's the week for the Chicago Bulls that we have. 4 crucial games. Again, it could already be over, but there still could be a chance if we can manage to win. Put it this way. If we win all 4 of these games, the Bulls have a chance. Because I can't see the Wizards and the Raptors or even the Pacers win 4 games in a row. Especially towards this end of the season and the competition that they have. We will have a chance. If teams slip up, we have the chance. But again, I don't see us winning 4 games in a row. I expect 2 wins out of this week. I expect us to beat the Hornets. I expect us to beat the Pistons. But in the end, very difficult week. And of course, we can lose both of those games as well. So we have to wait and see which Bulls team shows up and if we can find any level of consistency going forward. And if we can do that, then we'll have a chance. We shall wait and see. That is going to be the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Have a wonderful and safe day, all Chicago Bulls fans. I will see you in another Chicago Bulls video. Stay safe, stay healthy. We've got 2 weeks until the end of the season, and let's make the most of it. Take care.